A canine dog noticed what no one else could. A silent signal desperately signaled by a little girl. That moment of connection between the trained animal and the vulnerable child became the turning point in a story no one could have foreseen. The dog's next action not only surprised everyone present, but also changed the course of many lives forever. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. The supermarket in the heart of Itatiba was unusually quiet that Tuesday afternoon. The aisles, typically buzzing with chatter and rolling carts, lay still under the cold glow of fluorescent lights. In aisle 12, among shelves stocked with cookies and chocolates, 5-year-old Ana Costa walked slowly. Her tiny steps barely echoed on the tiled floor as she clutched a worn teddy bear to her chest. Her wide, frightened eyes darted at every adult who passed by, but no one paid her any mind. She might have seemed like just another impatient child waiting for an adult to finish shopping. Then Anna made that subtle gesture, so faint that anyone distracted would miss it. She tucked her thumb into her palm and curled her other fingers over it, a movement laden with unspoken meaning. Across the store, Luna, the German shepherd from the military police K9 unit, patrolled routine rounds with Officer João Silva. Suddenly, Luna stopped. Her ears perked up in alert, and João felt the immediate tension on the leash. "What's wrong, girl?" he asked, puzzled by the abrupt change in his partner's behavior. Luna stood frozen, her brown eyes locked toward aisle 12, a soft growl rumbling in her throat. Not aggressive, but uneasy. João tried to keep walking, but she resisted, her muscles taut beneath her shiny fur. He knew those signs well. Luna had detected something human senses couldn't. Following her gaze, João spotted Ana. At first, nothing seemed amiss. The girl was alone, perhaps waiting for someone nearby. But when she repeated the discreet hand gesture, a memory clicked in his mind. Luna began moving slowly toward the child, pulling João along. This wasn't her usual response to drugs or explosives. It was something more instinctive, protective. Ana didn't notice them watching. She kept hugging her old teddy bear, her frightened eyes scanning the surroundings as she repeated the odd motion with her right hand. João observed closely. After years as partners, he trusted Luna's reactions implicitly. She had sensed a deeper unease. As they trailed Ana through the store, João stayed back to avoid suspicion. The girl walked with her head down, beside a hurried man. When they reached the parking lot, João pretended to check his phone while watching the man buckle Ana into the back seat of a gray car. He memorized the license plate instantly, noting how the girl never looked back, huddling in her seat without a proper child seat, an irregularity that added to his suspicions. The car pulled away, and João resisted the urge to follow right then. Rushing could jeopardize everything. Instead, he returned to their police vehicle with Luna, who remained restless, sniffing the air and glancing in the direction the car had gone. In the car, João jotted down details in his notebook. The plate, the car's model, the man's description, Ana's behavior, and that telling hand gesture. It lingered in his thoughts. Luna whimpered softly, pawing at his arm as if begging for action. "We'll fix this, partner," he promised, starting the engine. On the way to the station, João mentally rehearsed how to present the case. He knew Luna's instincts alone might not convince his superiors without solid evidence. Still, the dog's unease and the girl's frightened eyes were signs he couldn't ignore. He took a deep breath as he parked at the Itatiba police station, bracing for the long report ahead. That ordinary afternoon in the supermarket could be the start of something much bigger. At the station, João sat at his computer, hesitating as he typed his report. Police protocol was strict. Without concrete evidence, intervening in a child's case could lead to administrative trouble. But the image of Anna clutching her teddy bear haunted him. Luna paced restlessly beside his desk, ears up and eyes fixed on the door, as if expecting the girl to appear. She refused to lie on her mat, which was unlike her. Sergeant Maria Oliveira approached with a coffee mug in hand. "Something wrong with Luna? I've never seen her so agitated in here," she said, watching the dog circle and sniff the air. "I can't explain it," João replied, rubbing his tired face. "It's that girl from the supermarket. Something's not right." Maria set her mug down and crossed her arms. "Do you have any proof beyond Luna's reaction?" João shook his head. He knew suspicions based on a dog's behavior, and a vague gesture weren't enough for a formal investigation. Yet, in his 15 years of service, he'd never seen Luna act this way. "I'll check the system for any records on the address or the girl's name," he decided, hoping to find a legitimate path forward. Luna nuzzled his knee as if approving. Even so, her body stayed tense, ready for action. The tension between protocol and instinct grew. João knew he risked reprimand for wasting resources, but ignoring the signs could mean abandoning a child in danger. With a deep sigh, he opened the search system and entered the license plate. The first step was taken, though he had no idea where it would lead. Back at his desk, João reviewed the footage from his body camera. The video showed aisle 12 with Anna hugging her teddy bear. Frame by frame, he noticed the subtle hand gesture, her thumb folded into her palm, fingers closing over it. A chill ran down his spine. It was the international distress signal, a silent code used by victims who couldn't speak out. As an experienced officer, he recognized it, though he'd never seen it from such a young child. Determined, João went to Sergeant Maria's office. She listened as he explained, showing the paused video. Maria's brow furrowed, her eyes shifting between the screen and his worried face. "You know we have to follow protocol, João. We can't raid someone's home based on a gesture that might mean nothing," she said, running a hand through her hair. Luna, lying nearby, lifted her head and fixed her eyes on Maria, letting out a low whine. "I know the rules, Sergeant, but I also know Luna. In 5 years together, she's never reacted like this without reason," João argued, gesturing to the dog. "That hand signal is for help. We learned it in training." Maria sighed deeply. Brazilian military police bureaucracy was a maze of regulations, but she understood that sometimes every minute counted for a child. "If we're wrong, we could face serious issues," she said, tapping her fingers on the worn desk. "But if we're right and do nothing—" The silence hung heavy. "Let's do this," she decided. "You and Luna make an informal visit to the address. Use a routine neighborhood check as cover. Observe, talk if you can, but don't accuse anyone or force entry. We need more before involving child services." João felt a wave of relief. Luna stood up, as if sensing the go-ahead. "Thank you, Sergeant. I won't let you down." "I hope not. And João, be careful. If anything seems off, report back immediately. Don't play the hero alone." As they left for the patrol car, João's heart raced, his hands sweaty on the keys. Luna walked with purpose beside him, focused and ready. He didn't know what they'd find at the apartment in Jardim das Palmeiras, but one thing was certain. He wouldn't ignore that silent plea for help. João and Luna arrived at the modest building in Jardim das Palmeiras. The 4-story structure, with peeling paint and narrow hallways, housed working-class families. As they climbed the stairs to the second floor, João noticed Luna growing even more tense, her ears upright and body rigid. Upon reaching apartment 202, Luna did something unexpected. The German shepherd planted her paws firmly before the door, refusing to budge, even when Officer João Silva tried to command her forward. The dog fixed her gaze on the entrance, a low growl rumbling in her chest. Luna never acts like this without a reason, the officer thought, his heart pounding as he rang the bell. After a few moments, the door opened a crack. A man, Pedro Santos, appeared in the gap, his face tightening with apprehension at the sight of the police uniform. The middle-aged man forced a smile, but his restless eyes betrayed his unease. "Good afternoon, sir. Officer João Silva, military police. We're just doing a routine check," he explained, while Luna remained motionless, staring intently into the apartment. "Is there a problem, officer?" Pedro asked, keeping the door partially blocked, as if trying to hide something. "May we come in for a quick word?" Reluctantly, the caretaker stepped aside. The apartment was simple and untidy, with clothes strewn about and dirty dishes piled in the sink. In a corner of the living room, sitting on the floor, was Ana Costa. The little girl clutched an old teddy bear, holding it to her chest, as if it were her only shield against the world. Her frightened eyes met Joao's, then shifted to Luna. "I'm just helping a neighbor, taking care of her daughter for a bit," Pedro explained, his voice wavering. "The girl's mother had some things to sort out, and asked me for a favor." Luna moved slowly toward the child, ignoring Joao's whispered commands. The dog stopped a few feet from Ana and lay down, her head held high, a posture Joao recognized from when she detected sensitive situations. "How long has the girl been with you?" Joao asked, noticing that Ana couldn't take her eyes off the animal. "A few weeks, maybe. I'm not exactly sure," Pedro answered, running a hand nervously through his hair. "Look, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just helping out." The officer felt the tension in the room thicken. Luna let out another low growl, almost imperceptible, but Joao knew it well. It was her signal for danger. As Pedro continued with his jumbled explanations, the officer observed the child's body language and the reactions of his canine partner. Something was definitely not right in this apartment. As Joao questioned Pedro at the doorway, two elderly women approached cautiously down the hall. Mrs. Lucia Mendez and Mrs. Carmen Oliveira, longtime residents of the Jardim das Palmeiras building, exchanged a meaningful glance before interrupting. "Excuse me, young man," Mrs. Lucia began, adjusting her glasses. "It's not my business, but I've been seeing this little girl in the hallways almost every day." Mrs. Carmen, leaning on her cane, added, "Always alone, poor thing. And she never lets go of that old teddy bear. She looks like a frightened little mouse." Luna, sensing the women's arrival, remained alert but less tense, as if recognizing them as allies. Joao noted his partner's subtle shift in behavior and made space for the women to speak. "The other day, I offered her a cookie," the older of the two said. "But she just shrank back, as if she were afraid of her own shadow." Pedro tried to intervene, clearly uncomfortable. "Ana is just shy. She's always been like that. Her mother asked me to look after her temporarily." "Temporarily?" Mrs. Lucia questioned, raising an eyebrow. "We've been seeing her here for nearly a month, and no one ever comes to visit." Joao mentally recorded every detail, while Luna remained focused on the apartment door, as if wanting to get back to Ana Costa. The officer shared a look with his superior, who had been standing back. Sergeant Maria then stepped forward, formally introducing herself to the women. With a firm but gentle voice, she asked, "Have you noticed anything else? Anything specific about her behavior? Any detail could be important." The neighbor's information, though based only on daily observations, reinforced their initial suspicions. Anna seemed isolated, fearful, and without the proper care a 5-year-old child needs. After listening to their accounts, Maria stepped away and made a quick phone call. João knew that despite everything they had gathered, they still lacked enough evidence for an official intervention. "I've called Helena Costa," Maria said upon returning. "She's the most experienced social worker in the city. If anyone can properly assess this situation, it's her." João felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Helena was known for her skill and sensitivity in cases involving vulnerable children. As they waited, Luna remained restless, as if she understood that when it came to a child's safety, every second was precious. The two elderly women offered to wait with the officers, determined not to let the little girl's plight be ignored again. The building's hallway, once just a passageway, was now becoming the first link in a chain of protection forming around the girl with the teddy bear. Helena Costa arrived at the building with cautious steps. Years of experience as a social worker had taught her that sudden approaches only amplified the fear in traumatized children. In apartment 202, she found Anna in the corner of the living room, clutching her old teddy bear as if it were her only protection in the world. "Hi, Anna. My name is Helena. May I sit here near you?" she asked in a soft voice. The girl didn't answer. She only hugged the toy tighter. As Helena tried to establish a connection, she discreetly observed the environment. The kitchen sink was piled high with dishes, some with days-old food crusted onto them. In the refrigerator, she found milk that had expired a week ago and very few fresh food options. In the makeshift room for Anna, there was only a mattress on the floor, covered with yellowed sheets that clearly hadn't been changed in a long time. Pedro Santos leaned against a wall, visibly uncomfortable with the inspection. "I do what I can. I'm not a father. I've never taken care of a child before," he justified himself, repeatedly running his hands through his hair. João Silva watched from the doorway, staying in the background so as not to intimidate the girl. Luna, however, acted on instinct. The German shepherd walked slowly to Anna and lay down beside her, making no sudden movements. The animal simply rested her head on the floor, her eyes fixed on the girl, as if to say, "I'm here." Helena noted the absence of any toys besides the worn-out bear. There were no children's books, no colored pencils, nothing to provide stimulation for a 5-year-old. Anna's clothes were piled in a cardboard box, many of them stained and carrying the distinct smell of not having been washed regularly. "Anna needs clean clothes, proper food, and a safe environment," Helena noted on her clipboard, keeping her voice low. Then something unexpected happened. While the adults discussed procedures and possibilities, Anna leaned toward Luna. With her lips almost touching the dog's ear, the girl whispered words that only the shepherd could hear. "You saw. No one else saw." João noticed the movement and exchanged a look with Helena. Something had shifted in the room's dynamic. Luna remained perfectly still, as if she understood the weight of that fragile moment of trust. Helena approached again, this time with a pad of paper and colored pencils she always carried in her bag. "Would you like to draw a little, Anna?" she offered gently. The girl didn't take them, but her gaze flickered between Luna and the adults, as if trying to decide who she could trust in a world that seemed so threatening for someone so small. The drive back to the Itatiba police station was silent. João Silva kept his eyes on the road, his mind torn between the urgent need to protect Ana Costa and the weight of the rules he had sworn to uphold. Beside him, Luna remained alert, as if sharing her partner's unease. In the evidence room, the officer connected his body camera to a computer. The images were clear. The little girl's small hand making a discreet gesture, her thumb tucked beneath her other fingers. A silent cry for help that now screamed in the officer's conscience. João felt a lump in his throat. When he was finally alone, he allowed a few tears to escape. 20 years on the force hadn't been enough to harden his heart against the suffering of a child. "We can't just go in and take the girl without a court order," Sergeant Maria argued, running a hand through her hair in frustration. "But we can't ignore what we saw either." The team was divided. Some feared administrative repercussions. Others argued for immediate action. The protocol was clear. They needed concrete proof of neglect or abuse, not just an ambiguous gesture and the behavior of a police dog, no matter how reliable Luna was. Helena Costa arrived at the station with a firm stride, determined to find a solution. The social worker had seen similar situations end in tragedy because of bureaucratic delays. She would not let that happen again. "I'm going to find Anna's mother," Helena announced, opening her laptop. "If we can locate Taina Costa, we'll have more information about this arrangement." While João obsessively reviewed the body cam footage, Helena scoured records and databases. After 2 hours of intense searching, she found a lead. Taina had sought help at a shelter for victims of domestic violence, but had disappeared weeks ago. "She could be using another name," Helena suggested, rubbing her tired eyes. "It's common in cases where women are fleeing violence." The system showed that the woman had mentioned a young daughter during her initial intake, but there was no record of the child staying at the shelter with her. This would explain why Ana was with Pedro Santos. Likely a desperate arrangement made by a mother who is trying to protect her child. "We have to find Taina," João concluded, more determined than ever. "She's the key to understanding what's happening to Ana." As night fell over Itatiba, the team knew they were treading on dangerous ground, caught between saving a child and respecting the limits of the law. Luna, lying at João's feet, seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. Her watchful eyes were fixed on her partner, as if promising she would not give up. A week had passed since their first encounter with Ana Costa. Helena visited apartment 202 daily, always with a different excuse so as not to arouse suspicion. That morning, while Pedro Santos was making coffee in the kitchen, the social worker noticed a colored piece of paper partially hidden under the sofa. "Do you like to draw, Ana?" Helena asked in a soft voice, crouching to meet the girl's eye level. The child only nodded, clutching her worn-out teddy bear. Carefully, Helena pulled the paper out and felt her chest tighten. The drawing showed a large adult figure with red eyes and a menacing expression, standing next to a small, cowering silhouette. In the corner of the page, a dark smudge seemed to represent the teddy bear. "Who is this?" Helena pointed to the threatening figure, keeping her voice calm despite the dread rising within her. Ana just lowered her eyes and hugged the toy tighter. Just then, Pedro returned, and the girl immediately recoiled, retreating to her corner of the room. Meanwhile, on the ground floor of the building, João Silva waited with Luna. The German shepherd was restless, sniffing the air and looking insistently toward the stairs leading to the apartments. When Helena came down, Luna tried to pull her back up, tugging on the leash with unusual force. "She's never done this before," the officer remarked, trying to calm the animal. "Normally, she only follows specific commands on the job." Mrs. Lucia, one of the attentive neighbors, approached them. "That little girl hardly ever speaks," the woman whispered, looking around to make sure no one was listening. Carmen and I have been watching. She never plays in the courtyard like the other children. João mentally noted every detail while trying to control Luna, who remained agitated, her eyes fixed in the direction of the apartment. Back at the station, Maria Oliveira analyzed the information they had gathered. The K9's behavior, combined with the disturbing drawing and the neighbors' reports, painted an increasingly alarming picture. Luna senses something we can't see, João concluded, stroking the dog's fur. She refuses to leave the building, even without a command. It's like she knows the girl is in danger. The sergeant nodded, her expression grave. Luna's instincts rarely failed, and all the signs pointed to a situation that required immediate intervention. Time was running out, and the German shepherd's behavior was the clearest sign that they needed to act quickly. After days of meticulous investigation, Helena Costa finally located Taina in a shelter for victims of domestic violence on the outskirts of Itatiba. The social worker felt a mix of relief and apprehension as she looked at the thin, worn-out woman, who was now using the name Marcia to protect her identity. The shelter, though simple, offered the security Taina desperately needed. High walls, surveillance cameras, and staff trained for emergencies. I couldn't stay at home anymore, Taina confessed, her eyes welling with tears as she clutched a cup of tea with trembling hands. He said he would find me no matter where I went, that no one would ever believe me. Helena listened intently, allowing her to speak without interruption. Experience had taught her that silence, more often than not, was more comforting than any word. Anna's mother explained that Pedro was a distant cousin of her ex-partner, and at the time, he seemed the only safe option to temporarily house her daughter. Pedro promised to look after her for a few weeks, until I could find a safe place for both of us, the woman continued, now wiping tears with the sleeve of her worn-out coat. But time went on, and the fear just grew. Every time I thought about getting Anna, I imagined him following me, discovering where we were. The social worker took a deep breath before mentioning the gesture Anna had made in the supermarket. Taina covered her face with her hands. I taught her that sign before we separated. I told her that if she ever felt she was in danger, she should do it near someone in a uniform. Helena's heart ached. This mother, even in the midst of her despair, had created a strategy to protect her child. The professional explained about Luna, the police dog who had noticed the sign, and about João Silva, the officer who hadn't ignored his partner's behavior. Taina, you are not alone now, Helena assured her, lightly touching the woman's arm. There's an entire team working to ensure the safety of you both. For the first time since the conversation began, a faint smile appeared on the mother's face. She asked when she could see Anna again, and Helena explained the next steps in the process, including the protective measures that would be requested. Leaving the shelter, the social worker felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Now she had to orchestrate a protection network that would allow for a safe reunion between mother and daughter, without exposing them to new risks. Helena Costa was flipping through a pile of reports on her desk when she found something disturbing. 3 different incidents, in distinct neighborhoods of Itatiba, mentioned children making the same gesture as Anna, the thumb hidden between the fingers. A chill ran down the social worker's spine as she realized she wasn't dealing with an isolated case. In a private conversation with Dona Carmen, the elderly woman revealed something surprising. Some of the women in the neighborhood teach that sign to the children. It's our way of protecting them when we can't do anything else. The woman explained that mothers, aunts, and grandmothers had created this silent network of protection after realizing that many formal calls for help were ignored by the authorities. The next day, João Silva and Luna were invited to participate in an activity with children at a municipal school near the Jardim das Palmeiras neighborhood. The corporal watched attentively as the German shepherd interacted with the little ones. Then something unexpected happened. Luna stopped abruptly, her ears alert, and fixed her gaze on a curly-haired girl in the corner of the room. The girl, who they later learned was named Luisa, was playing alone with colorful blocks. In an almost imperceptible gesture, she hid her thumb between her fingers as a teacher approached. Luna immediately walked over to her, sitting protectively by her sin. "She did the same thing as Anna," João whispered to Helena, who was accompanying the visit. The social worker nodded, feeling the weight of the discovery. It wasn't just one child crying for help, but several, using a code that only the most observant could perceive. After a careful conversation with the school's principal, they found out that Luisa lived with her uncle following the recent death of her mother. The teachers had noticed changes in her behavior, but had attributed them to the family's loss. Back at the station, Maria Oliveira gathered the team to discuss the new developments. "We're facing something much bigger than we imagined," the sergeant stated, pointing to a city map where they had marked the locations of the incidents. "We need to understand this informal network and work with it, not against it." João stroked Luna, deep in thought. "If it weren't for her, we would have remained blind to these cries for help." The dog remained alert, as if she understood the gravity of the situation. Helena observed the bond between the two, remembering Anna's whispered words. "You saw. No one else saw." The quiet city of Itatiba held more secrets than anyone could have imagined. And now, thanks to an observant German shepherd, those secrets were beginning to come to light. The indifference that once hung over Itatiba began to dissipate like morning mist. The case of Ana Costa reverberated through the city, awakening a collective consciousness that had long been dormant. In the downtown supermarket, where it all began, large, colorful posters were affixed to the walls, illustrating the gesture the little girl had made. The thumb hidden beneath the other fingers, a silent cry for help that now everyone knew. Employees received special training to identify signs of distress, and customers would stop to study the images, commenting among themselves. "I never imagined something so simple could mean so much," an elderly woman remarked, as she adjusted her glasses to see the poster better. In the municipal schools, teachers organized discussion circles with students. Children of different ages learned to recognize and use warning signs, creating an invisible but powerful network of protection. Parents, once too busy with their routines, began to pay closer attention to their children's small gestures. João Silva and Maria Oliveira faced a delicate situation within the force. The commander of the military police summoned them both for a tense meeting, questioning the methods used in the initial approach. "You overstepped established protocols," he stated, tapping his pen on the dark wooden desk. "But I acknowledge that in this specific case the result justified the means." The sergeant firmly defended their decision, highlighting Luna's exceptional intuition. "Without our German shepherd's perception, that child would have remained invisible to the system," she argued, maintaining the erect posture characteristic of her personality. Outside the police station, something unexpected was happening. A group of residents had gathered with signs of support for the officers. Dona Lucia, one of the neighbors who had helped with the case, organized a petition that circulated through the city's commercial establishments. "We need more police officers like you, who see beyond appearances," a middle-aged man said, as he personally handed the document to João, who was moved by the gesture. Helena Costa observed this mobilization with a mixture of hope and caution. The social worker knew that such movements tended to lose momentum over time, but she also recognized that something had fundamentally changed in the community. On a sunny afternoon, while walking with Luna in the central square, João noticed something different. People no longer averted their gaze. Now, they watched with attention. The city that never noticed anything had finally learned to see. In the interrogation room of the Itatiba police station, Pedro Santos finally opened up. With teary eyes, he confessed to the social worker that he had agreed to look after Ana following a desperate plea from Taina Costa. She showed up in the middle of the night, trembling with fear. She said she needed to disappear for a while and begged me to take the girl, Pedro explained, running his hands over his tired face. We never signed anything. It was just a verbal agreement between neighbors. Helena Costa watched every gesture the man made. Her years of experience in social work allowed her to recognize when someone was being sincere. The caretaker didn't seem to have ill intentions. He was just completely unprepared for the responsibility he had taken on. I thought it would be for a few days, he continued. Then a week turned into a month, and I didn't know what to do anymore. I work all day. I have no idea how to take care of a child. After their conversation, Pedro showed the social worker proof of enrollment in a basic childcare course. He had signed up 3 days earlier when he realized he urgently needed help. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I was just trying to help a desperate neighbor, he murmured, his voice thick with guilt. Outside the room, Helena took a deep breath. Anna's case was stirring up old wounds she tried to ignore. 6 years earlier, in a neighboring city, she had recommended that a child remain with her family after a report was made. 2 weeks later, the girl was found dead. The social worker stopped in front of apartment 202, hesitant. The simple building in the Jardim das Palmeiras neighborhood seemed too quiet that afternoon. Her fingers trembled slightly as she rang the bell. I can't fail again, she whispered to herself. When the door opened, Helena saw Anna's frightened eyes, clutching her old teddy bear. The professional swallowed hard, remembering the other child's gaze from years ago. The similarities were too painful. I've come to get some clothes for you, Helena said in a soft voice, crouching down to be at the girl's level. Everything is all right now. Anna didn't answer, but her eyes seemed a little less fearful. Helena knew that every case was different, that she couldn't let the past dictate her decisions. This time, thanks to Luna and João, they had arrived in time. As she packed the girl's few clothes into a small backpack, the social worker made a silent promise. This time, the story would have a different ending. The Itatiba City Council chamber was packed that Wednesday morning. Luna, the German shepherd from the K9 unit, entered escorted by João Silva, her faithful partner. As applause echoed through the hall, the dog, with her characteristic alert posture, seemed to understand the importance of the moment. The mayor, standing at the microphone, highlighted how Luna's keen instinct had triggered a wave of protection for the city's children. This animal is not just a police dog, but a symbol of what we need to be as a society, vigilant and sensitive to the silent signs of those who need help. After the ceremony, Luna became a local celebrity. Children lined up at community events to pet her fur and whisper secrets in her ear. Parents reported how their children began to trust authority figures more after learning the story of the dog who saved Ana Costa. At the municipal school, where Luna now made regular visits, teachers noticed significant changes. Students who were once quiet began to express themselves. some even revealing difficult situations at home. The animal's presence created a safe environment where fears could be shared without judgment. Donna Lucia and Donna Carmen, the neighbors who had helped in the case, organized a community watch group inspired by Luna's attentiveness. If a dog can perceive what we humans ignore, we need to relearn how to look, Carmen commented during one of their meetings at the community center. For João, however, the recognition came with consequences. The corporal received a formal reprimand for overstepping protocols in his approach and investigation. His record, once immaculate, now had a mark that could affect future promotions. It was worth every second, he confided to Sergeant Maria Oliveira as he signed the disciplinary document. If it were today, I'd do it all over again. Maria, who had supported his decision despite knowing the risks, squeezed his shoulder in silence. She too was facing questions from superiors, but she remained firm in defending her team's actions. Helena Costa, the social worker, brought comforting news over coffee at the end of that week. Anna was adjusting well to her foster family and had asked about Luna 3 times that day. As he watched Luna sleep beside his bed that night, João reflected on how a paper reprimand seemed insignificant compared to the smile that had returned to a child's face. The next day, man and dog would return to the streets of Itatiba, more attentive than ever to the signs the world insists on not seeing. After weeks of negotiations and legal procedures, Ana Costa finally left Pedro Santos's apartment. Helena Costa personally supervised the little girl's transfer to a foster family in the Jardim America neighborhood, just 15 minutes from the center of Itatiba. The Rodriguez couple, experienced in temporary foster care, welcomed the girl into a room decorated especially for her, filled with colorful books and age-appropriate toys. In the first few days, Anna remained silent, clutching her old teddy bear as if it were her only safe harbor. But the transformation began when Luna came for a visit. João Silva had managed to get special permission to bring the German Shepherd to the girl's new home periodically. The dog, normally disciplined and focused on her police duties, showed an almost maternal gentleness with the child. "She remembers you," João said to the little girl as he watched the emotional reunion. Anna, for the first time in months, broke into a genuine smile and hugged the animal, whispering secrets into her furry ear. Meanwhile, Taina Costa began her own process of rebuilding. After leaving the women's shelter, Anna's mother found a job at a local bakery and started attending therapy sessions offered for free by the municipality. Helena monitored her progress weekly, building bridges so that mother and daughter could reunite in a safe and controlled environment. "One day at a time," the social worker would repeat, both to Taina and to herself, still carrying the weight of old cases that didn't have the same positive outcome. Apartment 202, which had once held so many secrets and so much tension, found a new purpose. With the support of the community and the mediation of Maria Oliveira, the space was transformed into a temporary support point for vulnerable families. Pedro, recognizing his limitations as a caregiver, offered the property as a form of reparation and began working as a volunteer on social projects under supervision. Luna's visits became eagerly awaited rituals for Anna. With each meeting, the girl seemed to reclaim a little more of her stolen childhood. The bond between the child and the animal transcended explanation. It was as if they shared a secret language, born in that crucial moment in aisle 12 of the supermarket, when a simple hand gesture was understood by the attentive eyes of a four-legged friend. The impact of Ana Costa's case rippled through the city of Itatiba, growing into something far greater than a single rescue. 3 months after the incident at the supermarket, the military police announced the creation of a canine unit for child protection, the first of its kind in Brazil. The initiative, born directly from Luna's sharp perception, now involved training other dogs to identify signs of stress and fear in vulnerable children. Luna became the project's official symbol, her image adorning all its promotional materials. Officer João Silva, despite the formal reprimand he had received, was invited to coordinate the training for the new officers assigned to the unit. He accepted the mission with a mixture of pride and responsibility, knowing his experience could save other children. What Luna taught us is that we have to relearn how to see, João explained during the unit's inauguration ceremony. Sometimes, an animal can perceive what we humans overlook. Maria Oliveira, now promoted to lieutenant, supervised the program with the same balance of rigor and sensitivity she had shown throughout the case. She implemented new protocols that allowed agents greater flexibility when minors were involved, without abandoning necessary legal procedures. For Helena Costa, every step the new unit took was a personal victory. For years, the social worker had carried the weight of an unresolved case, a child she hadn't been able to save in time. As she watched the dogs train on the station grounds, she felt a long-held tension release within her, a knot of old grief finally coming undone. Maybe we can't save them all, Helena confessed to Maria over coffee in the central square. But now, we have more attentive eyes in this city. The news of the specialized unit reached the shelter where Taina Costa was continuing her recovery. When she learned that her daughter's almost imperceptible gesture had triggered such a significant change, she cried for the first time since her arrival. In Itatiba, a town where little of note ever happened, people now spoke of the Luna effect, the ability to see beyond appearances and not ignore the silent calls for help. Spring arrived in Itatiba, bringing a special vibrancy to the flower beds of the central square. Yellow ipe trees bloomed, symbols of renewal, as children played under the watchful eyes of their parents. The city had changed. It wasn't just the flowers that signaled a new season. It was the look in people's eyes, more alert, more aware. The downtown supermarket, the stage for Ana Costa's silent plea, had become a beacon of empathy. Employees now attended monthly training sessions to identify nonverbal signs of distress. Informational posters decorated the walls, and a photo of Luna, the German shepherd who changed everything, held a place of honor near the entrance. Aisle 12 had acquired an almost mythical status among the locals. João Silva and Maria Oliveira walked through the store, observing the changes with satisfaction. The officer, once criticized for overstepping protocol, now received discreet nods of respect from customers who recognized him. Maria, ever poised, had defended his actions to her superiors, arguing that some rules must bend when lives are at stake. I never imagined that afternoon in aisle 12 would change our city so much, João remarked. Maria smiled, adjusting her impeccable uniform. You and Luna proved that sensitivity is not a weakness. The numbers don't lie. Reports have increased by 30% since we implemented the awareness program. Their joint effort with social services, led by Helena, was showing impressive results. Police departments from neighboring towns sent agents to learn from the program developed in Itatiba. The community itself had awakened. Teachers, shopkeepers, and ordinary residents now understood that protecting children was a collective responsibility. Luna, meanwhile, had a new assignment. She was transferred to the newly created Canine Emotional Support Program. 3 times a week, she and João visited public schools. Children would line up to stroke her soft fur, and she would remain serene amidst the excitement. Do you know why Luna is so special? João would ask the small crowds. Because she pays attention to things that we adults often miss. During one visit, a little girl with curly hair approached shyly. Can I tell her a secret? She asked. João nodded, his heart swelling. The scene repeated itself often. Children confided their fears to the dog, who listened with the same focused attention she had given Anna. Anna herself was flourishing with her foster family. At 7 years old, she was talkative and curious, especially about animals. Her old teddy bear, once a constant companion, was now kept safely in a drawer, a memory of difficult days. Taina, recovering steadily, visited her daughter regularly, and together they were rebuilding their bond. On special days, João would bring Luna to visit Anna. The reunions were always emotional. The little girl would wrap her arms around the dog's neck, whispering words of gratitude. You saw me when I was invisible, she'd say. For Luna, her muzzle now showing a few white hairs, these moments seemed to be the most important of her career. She still possessed the same watchful, protective gaze, the gaze that had saved a life and, in doing so, transformed an entire city. It all began with a frightened girl, a desperate gesture, and a dog who, unlike the humans around her, knew how to interpret silence as a scream for help. And that had changed everything.